So latest game of the Rugby Championship, the Springboks have gone and done a job, 23 points to 12 over the Wallabies, tries to Deante and de Klerk for the Boks, Hodge and Guinea for the Wallabies. If you got up to watch this in New Zealand, it was 4:05 in the morning. For me, I kind of trundled out of bed at 4, got my little notepad ready and took my whiteboard in because I like to do all that stuff as I'm watching the game. Lucky I didn't put snooze on for 5 minutes because the Boks were wasting no time. In this one, they put a heap of pressure on early. My neighbour is pulling out weeds if you can hear that noise, by the way. But the Boks were pressure on early. Try within 30 seconds. Deante intercepting Beale's pass, and then not long after, kind of 20 minutes, Pollard sets up de Klerk for a second try. It was all Boks. It could have been more. The Aussies got out of jail a few times with a defensive line-out steal kind of in their own 22. Pocock got a couple of turnovers. There was one maul that they stopped, perhaps by pushing a little bit early, I thought. But, it could have been more. They were doing well to be only 14-0 down after 20-odd minutes. And then it didn't take them that long to strike back. Hodge and Guinea's tries came through. And pretty much quietened that crowd down because that crowd was really getting into the game. It was all Springboks, and then second half of that first half, the Wallabies really came back into it, kind of evened things up. Wallabies kicking not the best. Hodge missed a penalty, Tamua missed a penalty and a conversion, but Pollard kind of criticised after that first round of the Rugby Championship. Much like in the last game against the All Blacks, his boot was a large part of what got South Africa the win in this one. Imagine if he'd missed his kicks and the Wallabies had got theirs. This could have been a very different story because, he's got 3 penalties on there plus 2 conversions. So, a large part of what the Boks were doing well. But as I said, that first half was really good. 4 tries, turnovers galore. Khaleesi made a huge break. Guy has been criticised before for not passing when he makes a break, and it's another time he does it. He didn't see Korobedi coming over the sideline shoulder. He was kind of looking back in field. Should have given the ball to LaRue, but hang on. This is what I'm talking about. The Springboks could have had a lot more points. Beale's looping passes were getting a little bit of pay, even if they cost them early. It seemed to be a kind of definite strategy. One thing that wasn't really happening with the Wallabies was a whole lot of action from their 2 big wingers. Deante and Colby for the Boks are not the biggest guys, and Korobedi and Folau certainly have some size about them. In that first half, they had 3 runs between them, Folau and Korobedi. 2 to Folau, 1 to Korobedi. And Korobedi's one ended up in a try. The Boks, on the other hand, had 8 runs to Deante and Colby for them. So, interesting. They kept trying these looping passes, getting a bit of pay, but also kind of risk and reward. They weren't really trying the crossfield kicks to Folau, which was surprising because, as I said, the guys marking Folau aren't all that big. He's going to get the ball more than half the time given his kind of incredible jumping technique as it is. And with those guys who aren't that huge marking him, you'd have to give him even a greater percentage chance of catching the ball in these circumstances. But they weren't trying. I think they tried it once during the whole game when they had advantage, and he did catch the ball pretty easily. So it's a surprising one that they didn't use that more. Because at halftime, position and territory pretty even, but South African tackling stats were really good at 83. South Africa, Australia 79, so just behind it. But second half, not all that much in the way of points. Only 3 points in that second half. A penalty to Pollard. A whole lot of tackling from the Springboks. They'll be a bit disappointed they didn't have more of the ball. Obviously, they'll be pretty pleased with their defensive effort. Keeping the Wallabies scoreless in that second half, especially when they had a man down for 10 minutes. But the stats from that second half, according to ESPN, Australia 68% possession and 79% territory. So good on the Boks for holding them out. Australia obviously need to work on that attacking structure. A lot of handling errors, a lot of pressure on from the Boks, which kind of leads to that. But also, Boks will be a bit disappointed they couldn't really get their hands on the ball a bit more and really do something themselves. And it just made for a lot of tackling in that second half. probably getting your defence sorted is a good thing. As a coach, kind of leading into a World Cup year next year, getting the defence on song is always going to put you in the spot where you can win a game. But yeah, at home, you definitely want more than that ball that they had. But yeah, they didn't try those crossfield kicks to Folau. They kept making errors, and the Wallabies weren't able to put on any points. There was one period of play, so Deante gets his yellow card for kind of repeated infringements. Both teams had a lot in the way of penalties, to be fair. Then Kitsoff gets a turnover, they got a man down. Folau then does a high shot on Colby, so it's another penalty. And then Pollard kicks the ball dead. So that was kind of the story of the second half. Neither team was really able to get it going. The Wallabies had worked really hard to get a guy in the bin and then didn't do anything with it. That was probably the Boks' kind of best period of play. They were able to get the ball down the other end a bit more. It did seem to lift them a bit. But yeah, big defensive pressure by the Boks. A lot of errors for the Wallabies. And yeah, very little happening in the way of point scoring. Overall possession territory ended up to be about 60-40 to the Wallabies. But as I said, that second half was pretty much all them. ESPN has South Africa at 129 tackles and 87% tackling rate. Australia 61 tackles at 86. So both sides defensively fairly sound, as I said, especially in that second half. The line-out was an issue for the Wallabies. They lost some key ones, but Etzebeth was pretty big for the Boks in that department. The Wallabies, for some reason, kept lifting Hooper, which is weird when you've got two locks plus Ned Hannigan, who's a lock loose forward. But they lifted Hooper. It was a weird one. They were at 80% for the line-out. The South Africans at 90%. So it's improvement for the Boks because they've been under a bit of scrutiny in that department as well. But yeah, Khaleesi picked his moments defensively. There was one ruck where he cleaned out about 3 guys at once, which was impressive. As I said, for the Wallabies, Pocock's defensive turnovers were important. Kept them in the game, really. Colby seemed to be everywhere. Interestingly, the Wallabies did replace their 2 locks with their 2 forward replacements. I thought they might have put one of them on at loose forward, but they didn't. Pollard's boot was important. Interestingly, run meters were fairly similar. The Boks had 316. The Wallabies had 351. So despite all that extra ball, the Wallabies weren't able to get that far with it. And that kind of speaks volumes to what the Boks were doing on defence. So yeah, very much a game of 2 halves. You got 4 tries in the first, a whole lot of action, and then a whole lot of defensive wall and errors in that second half. So it wasn't all that pretty, but you still saw some big performances. Like Kitsoff was huge when he came on for the Beast. You didn't really see that same impact that you kind of thought Taniela Tupa might have for the Wallabies. Perhaps at the moment he is better suited to that kind of super sub role where he can put that energy into kind of a more limited time. I guess we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the game. The All Blacks one is on in not too long. So I'll be going to watch that one shortly. But yeah, 23 points to 12. If the Pumas can get up for a massive result, could make for a very interesting game next week. But either way, that rematch is going to be interesting between the Boks and the All Blacks. And the Wallabies got one more chance to kind of get things right. They certainly had the possession and the territory, just not that X factor to get things done. They weren't helped by their backline having to be reshuffled a fair bit. Like Korobetti went off for Maddox, and then Maddox himself went off, so the whole backline got reshuffled at one point. But yeah, as I said, you guys let me know your thoughts on the game, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.